find a point somewhere and just focus on that point. And by having that focus on a point, by having what we call the North Star, then you'll actually be able to get more balance in your life. So this is also a life lesson, that if you want to find balance in your life, oftentimes most people go out of balance because they don't have a North Star. They don't have an overarching purpose. They don't have like an overall goal that they're pursuing, that they're always working towards. Our mind is in too many places. So if you want to be balanced, that's the lesson. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and giving your time this afternoon. Can you put your hand up if it's your first time at an event like this? Oh wow, so many of you. Okay, cool. Don't worry, we won't make you do anything embarrassing. You can relax. We're going to have an afternoon where we discuss a little bit of wisdom, and hopefully it will be relevant to your lives. Today we're talking about the art of balance. Can you put your hand up if you feel like your life is a little bit out of balance? Okay, excellent. Now I know we have truthful people in the room. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about balance. We're going to talk about the different things that you need to balance in your life, and maybe some habits that you can develop that will help you to find more balance so that you can be successful in many, many different aspects of your life. Whenever we have a spiritual discourse, what we usually do is we begin by offering a meditation of gratitude. So I'm going to recite a Sanskrit prayer, and this is a prayer which is offered to our teachers who have given us so much knowledge. So it's said that this vibration of the Sanskrit language, what it does is it makes the atmosphere very, very kind of conducive for spiritual wisdom. So are you okay if I recite that prayer? You can just hopefully absorb the sound vibration, and you can think of someone in your life who you're grateful for. And while we're reciting this prayer, you can just in your mind offer your thanks to them. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you very much. So as was mentioned at the beginning, when I was 21, I graduated from university. I was studying at University College, London, just like all of you. When I attended university, I wanted to study philosophy, but I was convinced that I should study something that will get me a real job. So I ended up studying computer science and management, and I did graduate. But when I was 21 and I graduated, I decided I wanted to go on a little bit of a spiritual search. And so I went traveling to India. And in India, I encountered amazing teachers, amazing wisdom. And I picked up many, many amazing teachings. And what I found amazing about these teachings were they were not just teachings about the afterlife. Sometimes, you know, when you think of religion or you think of spirituality, then you think of knowledge that's going to help you after you die. And therefore, for most people, they think religion is something when you do when you're old, because you do it when you're old because you're about to die, so you better start thinking about the next thing. But it doesn't really help you in this life. That's what people think. But actually, I found that the religion, the teachings of spirituality, not only helped you in the ultimate journey beyond this world, but it also helps you to live life in this world as well. And so today we're talking about the art of balance. And balance is something which we struggle with every single day. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of the insights that the ancient teachers tell us. But before we do that, I just want to see how present all of you are. Do you feel like you're present in the room right now and your mind is focused? Yeah? You are here? Okay, I'm just going to ask you guys some questions, and I just want you to shout out the answer. You can all do it together, because they're really easy questions. This is just going to help me to see how present you are. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, good. All right, so first question. These are really, really simple. Just tell me the answer as it comes to you. You're participating in a race, and you overtake the second person. What position are you in? Who said first? Who said second? Okay, good, very good, yes. If you overtake the second person, then you're in position? 3? 2, you're in position 2. Okay, brilliant, wonderful. You are, that's good, you're present, you didn't fall for that one. Okay, if you overtake the last person, what position are you in? Second last? Is it possible to overtake the last person? Is it logically possible to overtake the last person? Okay, so that's a logical fallacy. You can't actually do that. If you did, you'd be very, very mystical. Okay. Next question. Mary's father has 5 daughters. Nana, Nini, Nini, No. What is the name of the 5th daughter? Mary. Mary, okay, you got that one. Excellent. Brilliant. You didn't fall for that one. Well done. Have you guys done this before? You've done it before? Okay, then you're not allowed to answer if you've done it before. Okay. All right, the next question. Divide 30 by 2 and add 10.
Sorry, we hear the vibration is a bit high.
Divide 30 by 2 and add 10. 25? Are you sure? Yeah, you're right. That wasn't a trick question. Got to put one of those in between just because otherwise you just get too smart. A farmer had 17 sheep, all but 9 died. How many were left? 9. Very good. 9. Take 2 apples from 3. How many do you have? 1 or 2? 2. You took 2, so you have 2. Thank you. If you had only one match and you entered a cold and dark room where there was an oil heater, an oil lamp and a candle, which one would you light first? The candle? The match. You guys, some of you have done this before, you're spoiling it. Okay, let's see if you get this one. I went to bed at 8 o'clock at night, wound up my clock and set it for 9 o'clock in the morning. How many hours of sleep did I get before I was awoken? This is not a trick question. How many hours of sleep? 13? Anyone has any different answer? The answer is 1. Because it's a wind-up clock. And therefore there's no AM or PM on a wind-up clock. Did you not get that answer right? Do you still not understand it? Okay, if you don't, come and ask me later, I'll explain it. Why am I doing this with you? The tendency in life is that when we're out of balance, when we're very, very busy, then what happens is our mind is in so many different places. And therefore sometimes we kind of go into autopilot in terms of how we act and how we respond to the things of life. However, when we've got headspace, when we've got balance, then it means when you're responding to the different things of life, you don't just go for the automatic, impulsive, kind of knee-jerk reaction that most people do, but what you do is you're able to think more deeply. How many of you feel like in life you just respond to things impulsively without really thinking about it? Yeah, we do that, right? And the idea is that if you have more balance in life, then you'll have more headspace. And if you have more headspace, then what will happen is we'll actually think more deeply about everything that's going on. So balance is a really, really important thing. And in life, it's really hard actually for people to find balance. Yeah. Actually, before I do that, let me do an experiment with you guys. Can you all stand up for a second? So in India, what they used to do is they wanted to kind of teach people the art of balance. And if you were physically balanced, then the idea is that your mind would also be balanced. So this is also, you can do this in your spare time, that if you spend some time being physically still, then what will happen is that you'll also find mental stillness. Now, I've seen in South Africa, actually people do this at the traffic lights, right? They're like really still, like a statue. Right? So the way you do it is you get your right foot. Well, first you can fold your hands like this, and then you get your right foot and you put it onto your left knee. I'm going to show you in a second. And then what you have to try to do is just keep your balance. And how much you're able to keep your balance also tells you something about your mental kind of stillness and your mental equanimity. So we're just going to do a competition and see who can stand for the longest. If you put your feet down, then you have to sit down. Yeah, are you all going to be truthful? Yeah? So we're going to see who stands for the longest. After I count to 3, I'm going to go like this. And then we're going to do it. And if you put your foot down and you lose your balance, you have to sit down. Yeah? Agreed? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go for it. If you lose your balance, you have to sit down. Wow, you guys are really relaxed. Do you guys do any work here? Oh, very good. Okay, that's pretty easy, huh? Easy? Easy enough, right? Okay, those who are still standing, remember if you lose your balance, you have to sit down. Those of you who are still standing, carry on. What I'm going to ask you to do after 3 seconds is close your eyes. And if you lose your balance, and you have to keep your eyes closed, and if you lose your balance, you have to sit down, yeah? 3, 2, 1, close your eyes. All right, they're all falling now. You have to keep your eyes closed. If your eyes are open, you shouldn't be standing up. If your eyes open or you lose your balance, you have to sit down. We're going to see who wins here. There's a prize for the winner. We've got 3 still standing. Your eyes are open, sit down. Wow, we got these 2. Look at these 2 yogis. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, there you go. Wow, look. Amazing. What's your name? What's your name? Tasha? Nashia. Wonderful. Give her a round of applause. That was amazing. Sound is better without the microphone? Yeah? Okay. I won't use the microphone then. Did you learn anything from that experiment? What did you learn? Could you draw any life lessons from that experiment that we just did? Anyone? Yes?
Yeah, actually from my yoga courses, from the Vedic, they told us whenever we do the standing posture, we need to fix at one point, because when our mind is fixed, we can maintain the balance and stand on one foot. And when we close our eyes, thoughts come in our mind.
Excellent.
And our concentration gets diverted. That's why our body can't stand on
Yeah, so next time you do that experiment, try to do it at home, but this time don't look around everywhere. Find a point somewhere and just focus on that point. And by having that focus on a point, by having what we call the North Star, then you'll actually be able to get more balance in your life. So this is also a life lesson, that if you want to find balance in your life, oftentimes most people go out of balance because they don't have a North Star. They don't have an overarching purpose. They don't have like an overall goal that they're pursuing, that they're always working towards. Our mind is in too many places. So if you want to be balanced, that's a lesson. Very good. Any other lessons you learned from this? God, everyone's really quiet. Yeah, relax. You can be, doesn't matter if you're wrong. Yeah, at the back.
But basically, I think that like when we close our eyes, right, it was a little bit more hard to balance, because I feel like as soon as we close our eyes, like all of our thoughts and whatever's going on in our heads kind of like distracts us.
Yeah.
We have our eyes open, and it's just easier to focus on one thing. But then you like go, like close your eyes and go into yourself. And, like,
Excellent.
what's going on in your head is like,
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, so wasn't it harder to balance when your eyes were closed? So that's a really, really pertinent life lesson as well, that if you're not constantly checking yourself as to how much attention you're giving to all the different parts of your life, if you're not aware and your eyes are not open to that, then definitely you're going to go out of balance. And so most people in this world don't even think about whether they're balanced or not, and therefore they are going to go out of balance. And therefore it's so important to actually think about these things. So yeah, if I was to ask you, can you shout out some of the things to me that you're balancing in your life? Like the different aspects of your life that need attention and that you need to give time and energy to. What are the kind of things you guys are balancing in your lives? Anyone? Your studies. Okay, very good. What else? Your family. Your family, your relationships. On Sunday was Mother's Day. Put your hand up if you didn't. Give a shout out to your mother. Okay, you're all nice people. Yeah, so relationships, family, very good. What else? Your kind of maintenance of your physical space and just the daily chores of life. Yeah, what else?
Diet.
Your health, your physical health, doing some exercise, your mental health. What else? Diet. You got to fit in time to eat every day.
No, like balancing the proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats.
Okay, having a balanced diet, as in having, so paying attention to physical health. Yeah. What else? Finance, making sure you have enough money. The money that you need to survive, to carry on, making sure you're earning enough. Yeah. Anything else you're balancing? Yeah. Sleep, making sure you get enough sleep. Anyone go out of balance on their sleep? Yeah, sometimes we do. What else? What else do you sometimes feel you may neglect in your life and not pay enough attention to? Yeah, louder. Spirituality, yeah. Questions of what is beyond. Sometimes we're just so engaged with the day-to-day stuff of kind of keeping up with all the demands that we don't question what's more, what's behind it, what's higher, what's the real purpose beyond just the day-to-day aspects of life. Very good. Anything else? Yeah, so here, yeah? Relationships, yeah, not just family relationships, but family relationships with friends, relationships with your partner maybe. You need to give that time. You need to give it quality time, because if you don't, then there's no deepening of those relationships. So it's a busy life, and you got to kind of balance all of these things. Some of you may have seen this before. Does anyone know who created this hierarchy? Yeah. Maslow, yeah. Some of you, I'm sure you do sociology and other things. So this is Maslow, and Maslow basically said there is a hierarchy of needs. So what Maslow explained is that on the foundation we have physical needs. We need to eat, we need shelter, we need sleep, we need to be physically taken care of. But then he says above that we need to have security. We need money in the bank, we need some kind of comfort around us, otherwise it's very difficult to function. And then he says higher than that we need relationships. And then he says higher than that you need to also make a contribution to the world. There's a sense of you have to feel like you're valuable, like you're making a difference in people's lives, you're making a difference in the world. And then he says higher than that is self-actualization. What do you think self-actualization means? Anyone? In this hierarchy, how would you define self-actualization, which he puts right on the top? Yeah, at the back.
Self would be yourself, and actualization of the action of yourself.
The actions of yourself, understanding yourself, your deepest self. Is that what you mean? Yeah? Yeah? Knowing why you're here, why am I in this world, and what is every activity. In other words, even if I'm doing all of these things, what are they ultimately meant for? What am I trying to achieve in the ultimate sense from all of these activities? Very good. Anyone else? Self-actualization? Yeah? Inner fulfillment. Yeah, if you look at a lot of these ones, they're very much to do with interaction with the external world, either people or achievements or things. But self-actualization is very much about your inner achievement, connecting and finding inner fulfillment. Very good. Anything else? Self-actualization, what does that mean to you? Yeah, at the back. Realizing your full potential. Yeah, we have so much capacity. We have so much ability that oftentimes is unexplored. Like they say, if you have a wheel of knowledge, then there's one small part of that wheel which is what you know. There's another part of that wheel which is what you know you don't know. But do you know what the majority of the wheel of knowledge is? What you don't know, you don't know. In other words, there's this whole potential of knowledge either in the world or potential within us that we don't even know about. And self-actualization means to venture into that potential that we never knew we had. Yeah, very good. I saw another hand here. Yeah. Cultivating a positivity and an optimism and a confidence. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah. Self-actualization means cultivating this inner confidence. You know, like everyone here in this room, maybe all of us have desires to do certain things in this world or in this life, but oftentimes what many of us are lacking is one thing. It begins with C. You know what that is? Confidence. Most of us don't have confidence in ourselves. And therefore we have an idea, we have a dream, but we don't have confidence. And so self-actualization is that state where you develop this kind of inner confidence to also follow your path, to follow your dreams. And most people don't tap into that. Yeah. So this self-actualization is actually not just according to Maslow, but according to all spiritual traditions, the ultimate goal of our life. But it's interesting that Maslow presents this as a pyramid, because the idea is that even though self-actualization is the ultimate goal, it has to be built upon the foundations of the things underneath it. And so balance is really important, because if you don't have balance in your life, then you can't actually get to that point of self-actualization. So when we find balance, when we're able, all of the 7-8 things that all of you said, when we're able to create a life in which we fulfill and give attention to all of those things, then it opens up the opportunity for you to actually explore what the real meaning of life is. Like that. So you with me so far? Does anyone have any questions or any comments or anything you want to ask? Yeah. Anyone would like to ask any question or make any comment? Is it clear where I'm going with this so far? Yeah? Okay. So what I'm going to share with you in terms of how to find balance in life is something very, very incredible. This is an ancient model from a scripture known as the Bhagavad-Gita. Can you put your hands up if you've heard of the book Bhagavad-Gita? Okay. So, just to give you a bit of background, Bhagavad-Gita is an ancient book of wisdom. We've got it at the back here. Later on at the end of the session, if you want to have a look, you can. It's dated to about 5,000 years. It's written in Sanskrit, and it's an ancient conversation which took place between two individuals. The speaker of the Bhagavad-Gita is known as Krishna, and the listener of the Bhagavad-Gita is known as Arjuna. Arjuna is a warrior, and he's just about to embark on a battle in the world. And just as he's about to embark on the battle, he's kind of having confusions, he's having doubts, he's having questions of life. Do you sometimes have moments where you have questions? We wonder, questions like, why do bad things happen to good people? Questions like, what happens when we die? Questions like, what's my purpose in life? Questions like, why can't I seem to find love and fulfillment? So there's a time in our life when all of us will begin to ask questions like this. So on the battlefield, Arjuna begins to ask all of these questions, and Krishna begins to respond to him, explaining answers to these questions, but also empowering Arjuna to live in this world and basically find that state of self-actualization. And while Krishna is speaking to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, one amazing insight that Krishna gives to Arjuna is what you see on the screen here. And this is a concept known as the 3 modes of material nature. So what Krishna basically explains is that everything in this world is colored by one of the 3 modes of nature. You know, like in color we have red, we have blue, and we have yellow. And they're the 3 primary colors. And when you mix those colors, then you can get unlimited varieties of colors. So in the same way, what Krishna says is that in this world, there are 3 energies. One is an ignorant energy, one is a passionate energy, and the third is the goodness energy. And what Krishna says is that ignorance is on one extreme, Passion is on the other extreme, but goodness, what we call here sattva, this is like the balancing energy. So what Krishna basically says is that if in your life you're able to cultivate the energy of sattva, if you're able to have this balanced energy of the middle one in every aspect of your life, then basically you'll be in balance and you'll have the greatest opportunity of self-actualization. So this sattva, these modes, these energies, they give us a deep insight. Now these three energies are all around us and they're also within us. So I'll give you an example. For example, the food that you eat can be in ignorance, passion, or goodness, or a combination of all of those. So for example, can you give me an idea, what do you think food in the mode of ignorance, what kind of food would that be? Yeah, you can shout out, don't worry. Yeah. Rotten food, decomposed. What other qualities do you think food in the ignorance would be like? Yeah. Leftovers, unclean food, uncooked food. Yeah, food that involves violence towards others. That's food in the mode of ignorance. What do you think food in the mode of goodness is? Natural food. Yes, what else? What do you think food? Fresh. It's full of nutrients, full of good things which nourish and give you life. Yeah? So like this, the food that you eat can be in different energies. And according to whatever food you eat, that will create an energy within you. Not just food, but the places you stay in. Some places, environments are like ignorant environments. Some are passionate environments and some are goodness environments. What do you think a goodness environment would be? That gives you clarity, an environment that helps you to think, an environment that calms you down, an environment, for example, like Tabletop Mountain or the forest, or that kind of, maybe not now because it's a tourist attraction or whatever, but a mountain, a forest, a natural place. What do you think a passionate environment would be? Which kind of provokes you, which brings a lot of desires within you, which agitates you. Some of you are like, maybe I was there last night. Yeah, like maybe a very competitive environment, or a very kind of, an agitating, maybe a nightclub or something of that nature. And an ignorant is an environment which is very dulling, maybe a pub or something like that. Yeah. So can you see? Everything outside of you is in these modes, and then according to whatever you associate with, whatever energies you associate with, that also creates modes within yourself. So then your faith can be in ignorance, passion, or goodness. Your desires, your determination can be in ignorance, passion, or goodness. So the idea is that if you learn this ancient model known as the three modes of nature, and you understand what sattva or what goodness looks like, then you can actually achieve balance in your life. And when you achieve balance in your life, then you can actually achieve your full potential. They say most people are only functioning to 10 or 15% of their potential because they don't have this sattva or this goodness in their lifestyle. So what I'm going to share with you is just a few. I'm going to quickly share with you like 5 habits which, if you kind of apply these habits, they will bring more sattva and they will also bring more balance in your life. Yeah? So shall I share those habits with you? And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open it up and see whether you guys may have any questions you want to ask. So the first habit of someone who has goodness and balance in their life is that they go inside before they go outside. And what do I mean by that? If you want to find balance in your life, there has to be some time in the day that you spend in solitude, away from everyone and away from everything else. This is really, really necessary, because when you're in solitude, nowadays people are scared of solitude. They think that when they're alone, they're going to feel lonely, they're going to feel depressed, they're going to feel like somehow there's something wrong with them. And so people constantly surround themselves with other things, with other people, with noises. Have you ever, think about the last time you saw someone sitting and doing absolutely nothing? What do you think happens when we got a spare moment and there's nothing to do? Your thoughts? What do people generally do when they're sitting around? You just go in the canteen and see what they do. Yeah, they pick up their phone and they start swiping. Because most people can't just stay still. They can't just be in solitude. They can't just be with their thoughts. They find that very, very difficult. I'll tell you an interesting thing. I don't know if you've heard of the theory of boredom. But they said 50 years ago, people used to get bored. And what did people do when they got bored? There was nothing to do. So what they used to do is they actually used to start thinking. And therefore the boredom was great. Because in that moment where they didn't have something to do, or there wasn't something which was stimulating them, they were feeling bored, but the good thing is they began thinking about life. But nowadays people don't get bored. What they do is when they're bored, they just swipe, or they watch, or they ingest something. And therefore nowadays people don't get bored. And therefore nowadays people don't think. People don't contemplate. People don't actually question their life out of the box. So therefore sometimes it's good to get bored and to sit with your thoughts. And so the ancient teachers tell us that you should go inside before you go outside. Spend some time in solitude. I'll show you this. This is interesting. Over the course of your life, this is what will happen. Your time spent with family will eventually decrease. Your time spent with the person you get married with will also eventually decrease. Your time spent with your children will also decrease. These are real life statistics. Your time with friends will also decrease. What do you think the only thing which will increase in terms of time spent? What do you think that is? The time spent with your workers, it will go down. The only time that increases in your life is the time you spend with yourself. And this is why most people get depressed in their older age, because they've not learned to actually relish the time that they spend with themselves, because no one has spent time in solitude. And so, if you want to find balance in your life, one really, really important thing is to learn to love solitude. What we tell people is spend 1 hour a day in solitude. And sometimes people say, what do I do in that hour? So what I tell people is this: 15, 15, 15, and 15. Do 15 minutes of movement. Do some exercise. Do some breathing. Do some kind of something to get your energy moving in your body. 15 minutes, meditate. There are different types of meditation. Later on, we'll show you a very powerful type of meditation called mantra. 15 minutes, read. Read some wisdom. They say small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, but great minds discuss wisdom. So if you discuss wisdom, then you get a lens through which you can see life in a different way. And 15 minutes, reflect. What I encourage everyone to do is try to do some journaling every single day and reflect. Reflect on what you're learning from life. Reflect on what observations you've made. And like this, movement, meditate, read and reflect. If you do 1 hour of day where you go inside before you go outside, if you can do this ideally in the early morning, then you'll see your life will transform. The second habit is place important things over the easy things. In life, what happens is there's important things to do, there's easy things to do, there's things which are demanded of you, and there are things which will bring you appreciation. And what often happens is what we tend to do in life is the easy things, the things that people demand of us, and the things that will bring us appreciation. But what we tend to miss out is the important things. And so the most successful people in the world, they know how to prioritize the important over the easy. What most people do in the world is they focus all their energy here. And so they don't achieve their potential. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you can look at this at some point in your life. This is a time matrix. Many of you have seen this. But there are things which are urgent and things which are not urgent, and there are things which are important and not important. And the most amazing thing is most people spend their time here. They spend most of their time doing that which is not important and that which is not urgent. And so, by living in sattva or goodness, in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna explains how you learn to structure your life in such a way that you put first things first. You know how to order, you know how to prioritize, you know how to put the emphasis in the right place. So the second habit is prioritizing the important over the easy. And not just the easy. Remember, don't just get sucked into the things that are demanded of you. This is the urgent stuff that the world tells you, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. But discriminate. Okay? So that's the second habit. The third habit is time carries memory, location carries energy. If you want to find balance in your life, then find structure in your life. If you do things at the same time every single day, then what will happen is it will become a memory in you. And you'll always, your mind will always come back to that activity at that time, and it will just become a habit and you will never neglect it. And remember, location carries energy. So when you do certain activities in certain environments, it gives you more energy to do that activity. That's why when you want to study, generally you go to a library, right? Because a library carries that energy which makes you want to study. So oftentimes we do things at the wrong time and we do things in the wrong place, and therefore we don't actually get the most out of that activity. So if you want to be balanced in your life, have structure, have consistency, and plan, right? You can see here, these is the daily routines of some of the most creative people in the world. We could look at this actually and do a lot of analysis and find many, many lessons. But you'll find that the common thing with all of these very, very creative people is that they structured their day in very deliberate ways. Not just that, you look here that these very, very creative people, they also kept gaps in their day for breathing space. They factored that in as part of their schedule. You'll see here, the most creative people in the world generally don't sleep very much, and they get up very early in the morning. In other words, they follow a certain routine because time carries memory and location carries energy. And therefore, if you tap into this, then you can actually achieve more balance in your life. Okay? The fourth, very, very important quality, if you want to find balance in your life, is feedback is the breakfast of champions. Most people in the world don't have a coach. Most people in the world don't have a mentor. Most people in the world don't have someone who's watching over their journey, helping them to bring the best outside of themselves. When was the last time you asked someone to give you feedback on how you could live your life in a better way? The more people who know you, who love you, and who really want you to succeed, and who have experience and knowledge, the more people like that you have in your life who give you feedback, the more chance you're going to stay in balance and you're going to be able to achieve your potential. But most people in the world don't have that feedback. They don't have that guidance. They don't have that mentoring and that coaching. Somehow we think I can do it myself, or we think I already know it, or we think people don't know me, or we think I know more than them, and therefore we don't take advantage of how other people can help us. So if you want to find balance in your life, it's really important to also have someone who's helping you find that balance. And the fifth, very interesting habit of those who are very, very balanced in their life is that they don't try to perfect everything. This is one of the biggest downfalls that people fall prey to, is that when they're doing an activity, they just try to perfect everything. But you can't perfect everything, or if you do try to perfect everything, know that you're going to mess up many other things. And therefore, someone in goodness has the awareness to realize, if I can make an activity to 80%, that's generally where I should just accept it and move on to another activity. Because what it will take you to get from 80% to 100%, that time and energy that you spent, which takes away from other things, will mean that you're going to fail in other areas. So don't try and be a perfectionist in everything. Just try to make it to 80%. And if you make it to 80% and then you switch your attention in other places, then you'll be able to bring other things to 80%. And then generally what's going to happen is in these 7 or 8 areas that all of you mentioned in your life, you're going to be able to make sure you take care of all of them, right? So these insights are all actually coming from the Bhagavad-Gita. Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita gives this model, as I explained, about the 3 energies in the world. So this is very, very powerful knowledge. If you grasp and absorb this knowledge, then you can actually reach your full potential. We showed that picture of self-actualization. You can actually get there, but it means these habits must be there. So just to recap, habit number 1, before you go outside, you should go inside. Spend some time in solitude. Remember, 1 hour, 15, 15, 15, 15. If you do that, it will be like a life changer. Yeah? The second habit was, I forgot myself now. Prioritize the important over the easy. Don't just do the easy things. Don't just do the demanded things. Don't just do the things that everyone is going to appreciate you for and pat you on the back for. But remember, the important things also need to be done. Right? The third habit was? What was it?
Time carries memory.
Time carries memory, and location carries energy. So try to have consistency in the way that you plan your day. Remember, we looked at that chart of the most creative people. Try to create times and locations for certain things, and then it will just become instilled within you. Yeah, the fourth thing is feedback is the breakfast of champions. If you want to achieve your potential, you have to have other people who are also giving you advice and giving you input and helping you to see what you can't see. And the final thing here, make it to 80%, right? Don't try to be a perfectionist in everything, because if you do, for sure you're going to neglect other things. So know when you've given enough time to something, and learn to move on to other things and not get stuck. And like that, these are habits that you can utilize in order to achieve your full potential. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and see whether you may have any questions. I saw there was a hand at the back, was it? Yeah, okay. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask, or anything I've said that you'd like clarification on, or you'd like to maybe know a little bit more about? Then I can try and share something with you. Oh, yes, okay.
I just want you to understand that when you say time carries memory, I don't really grasp what that actually means.
Okay, so what do I mean when I say time carries memory? What I mean is that when you do something at the same time every day, then what will happen is within your inner clock of the working of your being, when it comes to that time, you'll automatically just gravitate towards that activity, because at that time every single day you always do that. And therefore what often happens is, because we do an important activity but we just kind of fit it in randomly here, there, anywhere, then what happens is we end up neglecting that activity. But when you fix it at a certain time, then what will happen is every day you'll begin automatically doing it without even thinking, because time carries memory. It creates a memory impression within you. Does that make sense? Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Could that be also similar to muscle memory? So if you do an exercise, when you first start, you find it difficult, but the more you practice, it becomes more second nature.
Yeah, anything like that. If you're doing an activity at a certain time of day, say for example, waking up early and meditating, doing this 1 hour routine that I offered to you. It takes time in the beginning, it takes time to kind of get into that routine. But then what you'll find is at a certain point, when the clock hits like 5 a.m. or something, you won't even need an alarm clock. I live in the monastery, and I would say over half of our monks don't need alarm clocks. And it's amazing, even if sometimes they go to bed a little later, they still wake up, their eyes open at the same time, because time carries memory. And so when the sun is rising, that is immediately, it's just become worked into their biological clock. So that's the power. That's the power of doing that. Yeah.
Actualization and realization, for me, I experience them to be synonymous.
Yeah. Actualization means to harness something. And realization means to understand something. But you can't harness something unless you first understood it. So you can't have you can't actualize the power of the self unless you know what the self is.
So therefore, would one need to go through those steps from Maslow?
You see, generally, if one doesn't have the lower things, then it's very difficult to think about higher things. For example, a book like the Bhagavad-Gita begins by talking about identity, who we are, we're the soul, we're not this body, we're not black, we're not white, we're not man, we're not woman, we're not young, we're not old, this body is just a machine. We're a spiritual being. So that's the first knowledge of the Bhagavad-Gita. But say for example you go to a place where someone's starving, where they don't have shelter, where they don't have basic necessities of life, and then you give them a wisdom book and tell them, you're not the body, you're the soul. So it becomes very difficult to grasp higher truths if we don't have basic necessities. And therefore, having balance in your life is not the goal of life. Having balance in your life allows you to understand what the goal of life is. That's why balance is important. So balance is not the end of life, but it's a means to the end. And the end is self-actualization, understanding who you are, why we're here, what happens after this life, whether I'm here for a purpose, how I can find true love and deep happiness. That's self-actualization, but we need balance so we can put time to explore that. Does that make sense? Thank you. Anyone else like to ask any questions or like me to explain anything more about this? We have a few moments. Yes? Okay.
I just want you to repeat those 4 stages in the morning, the 1 hour concept.
So 15 minutes, movement, move. You can do some yoga, you can do some breathing exercise. We do something called Surya Namaskar. So Surya Namaskar means salutations to the sun. So it's very nice today. I saw the sun rising over the mountains, and what you can do, what they do in ancient India is when the sun rises, they do yogic postures, salutations to the sun. Because it's said that the sun is the source of all energy in the universe. So when you begin the day by connecting with the sun, then you become infused with that energy. They say the morning sun gives energy and the afternoon sun takes energy. The morning sun is very, very powerful. So 15 minutes, move. 15 minutes, meditate. That's where you stay still, where you sit with your thoughts, where you practice mantra or other things we can teach you. 15 minutes, read. You can take a book like the Bhagavad-Gita or wisdom books and just bathe your mind in something higher than just the news of the world. There ain't nothing new going on in the world. It's the same old stuff, just in different combinations. So sometimes we just spend our time scrolling through the news. It's just the same thing. It's not uplifting us. It's not energizing us. It's not educating us. It's not empowering us. And it's definitely not enlightening us. All it's doing is draining our energy. So rather than that, why not spend some time studying some wisdom that can actually help you to see beyond the superficiality of the world? So 15 minutes read, and 15 minutes reflect. You know what one of the best teachers in the world is? Our own experiences. But experience is only a teacher if you reflect on your experience. So what you can do is journal, and you can write, what were your observations of the day? What were your observations of other people? What were your observations of life? Learn from experience, then you become a wise person. But oftentimes we don't learn from experience. Einstein said, madness is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. And why do people do that? Because they don't reflect. So they keep making the same mistakes. They keep getting into the same issues. Have you ever felt like that? Like, this is like deja vu. It's all happening again. Because we don't reflect and learn and improve. We keep falling into the same traps. So this is 1 hour routine. Try it out.